We're live.
We have a visitor.
Good morning.
Let me start. And I didn't have no coffee or tequila this morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good morning, everyone. We will pause our Pandora today. Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and Pandusa. I'm Christian Cano, along with your co-host, Mama Ruth, and Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. Once again, Jeff Scott, our other co-host, is on a hiatus, maybe all summer. We'll find out here in a couple of weeks. Welcome for those who are joining us on Facebook Live, also those who join us on YouTube later, and also on Facebook as well. Today, we have some great topics that we're talking about. We'll be talking about what it's like growing up in America. Actually, the technical title that we posted is, Does LatinX Equal Spanish? That's the technical title. And we'll be talking about the ever-emerging, anybody see this?
Oh, yes.
We'll be talking about that.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to hear what everyone has to say. And I'm really heartbroken. First it was Chick-fil-A, my waffle fries. Now this. I apologize, my dogs are in the house, so I'm gonna have to turn it over. Introduce yourself. Let's go around the Brady Bunch screen and introduce yourself and your magical button. And I'll mute myself for now.
Who we starting with?
Let's start with
Jenny. It starts with Jenny.
Okay, I'll go. Hi, I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, a LGBT advocate for Charlotte Pride and the National Organization of Women. And if I had buttons, one would be Medicare for All. And obviously, we don't even need to explain it. I mean, it's common sense. It's COVID. Let's just get it in gear. The second one would be Moms Demand Action, Gun Sense Laws. You know, even though shootings have slowed down because of quarantines and stuff like that, we still have a exorbitantly high murder rate in Charlotte and around the country, and we just need to get guns under control. Ruth?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Perez. Everybody calls me Mama Ruth now on the show. And I am a community advocate for here in North Carolina. And I am glad to be here. My invisible button, like always, is gun sense. Gun sense reforms. We need that every single day. And of course, Medicare for all. Because if you get shot, you got to go to the hospital. So if you don't have no Medicare or any medical assistance, you won't be able to get a good treatment. So those are my main two ones. And right now we got to start thinking, even though it's July, we have voting time in November. So we definitely need to click on those buttons and make sure to understand what's voting and what are our rights and how our voice can impact our country. Next.
Me. Good morning, I'm Barbara, and I'm a healthcare advocate here in Charlotte. And I guess for me and my family, gun safety is at the top of the list. Chicago is just erupting in gun violence. And fortunately, my family is about 70 miles west, but we have family in the city. So we, I don't know, it's scary, family and friends. So, and I guess gun safety would be my invisible button.
Cyndi.
Buenos dias de Texas. My name is Cyndi Lopez. Woo! Isn't it hot? Muy caliente, man. It's bad. I own my own business, My Sweet Bunts. And hold on, guys, just a moment. And I own my own business, My Sweet Bunts. And I'm here. I love joining y'all in the morning. It just makes my day. And I love talking about all of the different issues that we go through socially. And can't wait to see what this conversation leads us to today.
Girl, I can hear that Texas accent.
Yeah, she's crazy. Am I
the only one that heard that?
Yeah, I heard it too.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. It reminds me of home.
That's very strange, being that I'm Latina.
No, well, no, it's well, listen, we're going to talk about the that. And Jenny and those of us who live in Texas understand that Texas is a wonderful combination of many cultures. And that accent that you have is a combination between Tejano, West Czechoslovakian, German, that whole accent. I mean, cowboy hats came from rancheros, from the sombreros. You know, country music, the accordions came from Czechoslovakian polka music, and also in much of our Italiano Mexican music. So there's a lot of influence. But that very end of what you said was that accent that only in Texas.
That was a Texas draw. There was an unmistakable twang right at the end, and I thought it was beautiful. It was like a spice you put right at the end of a really good chili. And it was just like, it was there. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, even people who speak Spanish have that Texas accent.
Oh, absolutely.
As long as you live in Texas, you'll pick up that slang.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things we want to talk about today. Today's topic is, does Latinx equal Spanish? Or basically, what is it like growing up in, Jenny's got us on cue. Yes, ma'am.
Don't forget about the salute.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Wait, can we let me go grab my cup. Yeah,
yes, go ahead. And while she's grabbing your cup, I want to tell you this very interesting tidbit. So everyone knows pan dulce is sweetbread, or that's kind of what it's called. Well, there's lots of all kinds of pan dulce from all countries. Well, the one that's really identified with Mexican pan dulce is the concha, which is shaped like a shell, comes in 4 or 5 different colors traditionally, and it's kind of a sweeter kind of coffee cake kind of thing. I don't know how you would describe it. I've always known it as a Mexican kind of pan dulce. And that's what I eat all the time. We give it to Tara's little girl, the concha. On our way, we're doing a very, very safe COVID-19 vacation where we're not touching and talking to anybody, staying as safe as we can. We stopped at a place, I'm not gonna tell you where, because I will tell you next week. We stopped at a place, and this place was selling conchas wrapped. And it says, if you look at this concha, and it says traditional French pastry.
What?
No way.
What?
They stole it.
Well, I will say, you know, the concha also comes from a combination of Caribbean and Creole. So there's that French influence, especially in the French Caribbean, that has a very hard mix when you talk about New Orleans, you talk about the Creole, Asian culture and all that. So it's not necessarily stolen.
Yeah.
I mean, because the people are always known for their pastries. I think it was just a mix of cultures.
They stole it, Jenny. They stole it. Oh,
No.
Okay. Oh, see, she's got one. Excellent.
Yes, she's got one.
I want that too.
Let's salute to coffee and pan dulce, everyone. Remember, Ruth, you get her cup of coffee. Cha-ching.
There she goes.
There she goes. All right. Well, listen, we want to start about what it's like growing up in America as a Latinx person. There's many different lenses that people can share with us. There's a very big difference between a Latinx person who grew up in California or a person who grew up in Texas or Colorado, even New Mexico, Arizona, and most importantly, in North Carolina, which is a very young Latinx community here. It's first, second generation, unless you've actually moved here from one of the Sunbelt states. So who would like to start and give us kind of a brief synopsis of what it was like growing up? And I kind of want to talk about the language because what we've talked about several times is in North Carolina and in Charlotte specifically, people tend to equate Latinx with Spanish and Spanish with Latinx. You can be Latinx and not speak Spanish, like myself. And you can speak Spanish and not be Latinx, like a Cuban or Spaniard or someone else from so there is this misunderstanding in Charlotte, North Carolina about Latinx. And the reason I say that is because politicians in this region, when they're trying to outreach to Latinx people, they just assume it means speaking in Spanish. They don't understand what that means. Or maybe we can get that clarified. So who wants to go first and tell us briefly what it's like growing up? Mama
I
Ruth?
can go first.
Okay, Cyndi, go ahead.
Okay. Well, growing up, I mean, we were not allowed to speak it in school. I was told by a principal that I could not speak Spanish. My mom was called to the school, and so my mom said, you know, you can speak it at home all you want. And we were pretty fluent when we were growing up, but as we got older, we kind of just let it go because we thought we were not supposed to be speaking it in public, you know. But I mean, our culture, we still took part in all of the things that our culture took part in, and we could amongst one another speak it, but it's in, and of course the first thought is if you're out in public doing it, oh, you're talking about me, don't be talking about me, you know, and that was kind of hard to explain to people. So I just pretty much stopped speaking it. If I hear another Hispanic speaking it, and I reply back in English because I don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, as I've aged, I've realized I don't have to prove that to anybody. You know, I can reply the way I want to reply. And I mean, I loved it. And in Tejas especially, I mean, we embrace our culture like no other. And I think there's no other, of course, this is just my opinion. I'm being biased, but I think there's no other more culture that's more beautiful than ours. I mean, just it's so colorful and just so much to it, you know? The music, you know, the food,
Yes.
the colors, it's just gorgeous. And I'm so proud to be Latino.
And girl, brown don't crack as we get older.
Yeah,
Just
that's
saying.
right. This is
Nothing
so
against you
true.
ladies. All right. Mama Ruth, how was it like growing up in San Antonio? Do you wanna share that?
You know, it was, I've always said it before, growing up in San Antonio, for me, I had no clue what was racism was. Racism, I guess seeing differences, because we all look like everyone else, like
Yeah.
nobody really seem different. And in Texas, I've told y'all, it's not, we don't speak one language, Spanish. We speak Spanglish.
Mm-hmm.
So we respect everyone's language. And when we're in front of someone speaking Spanish, we pretend like we know Spanish, but then all of a sudden 3 words. And when we kick in the English side, I don't know if they'll understand it, but they'll kind of play it off as well. So that's the way we roll the ball down there.
So, Mama Ruth, explain what Spanglish is. Because
Hola, buenos días. Mira, allá en el bote del trash, nos vamos por la truck y luego pasamos por el vato. And we'll see you tonight, this evening. What do you think? I'm right or wrong?
So no, you're spot on, because I encountered that a lot when I lived in San Antonio and grew up in San Antonio. It's almost like the pidgin English that is spoken in Hawaii, that is a combination of Korean, Japanese, Polynesian languages, and English, and it just jumps around. But it's a commonly spoken.
It's like playing basketball, bouncing the ball in, you know, into different side of the court.
We do have a question from Philip, your brother, Christian, and he says, what's the difference between Hispanic and Latino?
Or Latinx, I think it's what he means.
Yeah, I think he meant Latinx too, but that's
a great question.
Read exactly what he wrote.
That's a great question. Anybody want to touch that? I know what it is, but so this is what happened. About about 5 or 6 years, it may have been longer than that. There was a push to make the Hispanic means someone who speaks Spanish, came from a Spanish ancestry. Latinx is, you have to Google that.
Now, Spanish is coming from Spaniards for you know, and Latin is coming from Latin America. Latin America,
exactly.
Any type of culture that Hispanic culture
that will speak Latin, because even Italy people are considered Latin.
Well, and two, you also have like the Brazilians that speak Portuguese, so you know that are Portugal's descendants, and so there's several countries, or British Honduras, known as Belize, speaks English, and so you have a lot of cultures and influences And then when you get into like some of the Caribbean islands, they sometimes speak Spanish and French too. So there's a lot of Creole mix and different cultural mixes in the Caribbean islands.
Yes,
Right.
the term Latinx is something that I have just recently been doing, maybe 3 or 4 years. I still, as you can tell when I talk, I still switch between Hispanic and Latinx because I grew up with the term Hispanic. Hispanic is more a political term. So but the reason we use the X is to make it gender neutral. So we don't say Latinos when we're talking about females.
Make it neutral.
Yes, that's right. And
You know,
so
we need
I
a
hope that answers your
Raphael
question.
in this show today. We need a
No,
Raphael
exactly. Or Hector Vodka, or maybe even Dr. Gina, or
I wanted to pause this conversation and ask Cyndi a couple questions.
Sure.
One, I don't know which generation you're in. Are you in Generation X like I am? Were you born?
Say this none of your business.
Well, I mean,
Never ask a woman that, Jenny. You know that.
Hang on a second. Don't talk over me, all right? I actually have a point.
If you ask me, I'm in the best letters of the alphabet. You find out.
Okay. All right, well, I'll just skip my question then.
No, go ahead. I'm okay.
Okay. Well, Christian, stop doing that. The reason I'm asking is because we talked about the show last night, and there was definitely a pushback in Texas for people not to speak Spanish.
There was.
Whereas the millennial generation and the now the younger generation, there seems to be an emphasis in the school system of people learning more than one language, of being fluent in some school districts. Whereas I know when we grew up, my classmates that were of Latinx descent of some type that spoke Spanish in the home, when they went to school, I noticed that teachers would chastise them for speaking Spanish. And so that's why I was curious if it was a generational thing, because I know Generation X and older experienced a lot of prejudice from the predominant white community.
Right. Well, I was being that I started school later. I wasn't your traditional student when I went to college. My kids were grown. And when I found out that I had to take a Spanish course or some kind of a language course, I was so excited. I was like, what? You're going to allow me to speak this in public in school? That's weird. That's different. And my sons were like, well, we took it in high school. Come on now. And I'm like, I know, but I don't expect, because now people that are not Latinos or Hispanic they know Spanish, and it's so weird to me to see that we're allowed to do this. It took me a long time to wrap my head around that, because I was like, things have changed so much, and now you have professionals who are going to school to learn this so that they can make more money. And, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm so excited because we've come a long way. We really have. Like I said, we weren't allowed to speak it in school, and that was hard for us. They wanted us to speak it to those that were coming from Mexico, but only when they needed us to, when it was convenient for them. And once we were outside playing and talking, we couldn't communicate with those kids because we weren't allowed to speak Spanish. And that was kind of sad. And I feel that that's the reason a lot of the Hispanics nowadays let go. If you don't practice it, you lose it, and I think that's why a lot of people my age don't speak Spanish, because it was an embarrassment, I guess, is kind of what the way people felt about it. Well, no, I don't speak Spanish, no, I don't know how, because we were told not to.
Well, it was almost like a language shaming. It was almost like a cultural shaming, like
yes.
White culture definitely, and they did it with the African slaves too, because they gave them Anglo names like Jefferson and Washington, and then stripped them of their religion and their culture and everything. And America tries to force this assimilation, not understanding that the diversity is what makes us stronger and makes us more intelligent and worldly too. See in Europe.
Not only that, but like me, for instance, myself, I have a sister-in-law from El Salvador. And when I met her, I was probably a preteen, and she didn't have no experience of speaking English, and she was pregnant. So I was the one that will be the translator. And growing up, going to school, it was my normal life. Behind my doors of my family's home, I couldn't speak any English. I had to speak Spanish fluently, completely, because I was their translator, their interpreter. So once I would get out of my house and I try to go and play with my friends and stuff, to me, it was kind of embarrassing to speak Spanish at that moment, because I felt like I was gonna be rejected because my whole family was only Spanish speaking.
Right.
There was incidents where my mother would ask me to wash the dishes, and I would say I know. She would smack me because she thought I was telling her no. That's how bad English was in our house. So there's a pro and a con on some of the families that either you speak Spanish because you are forced to, or you don't speak Spanish because you're embarrassed to your culture.
Yeah,
Well,
you're right.
I can share with you, I grew up spoken only English, and I have tried to pick Spanish up, but it's been difficult for me. But I have learned the Tejano way of nodding, just acting like, and I've gotten many jobs in the 30 years in the hospitality industry as a consultant. I've gotten many contracts and jobs from hotel owners who thought I spoke Spanish until I got to the hotel. Hey, sign the contract. It is what it is. But, I really want to hear from Jenny and Barb's point of view, because they're looking at it I know both of you, Jenny, when she says growing up, she grew up in Texas. Barb lived in Texas for a while as well. From how did you see it from your point of view, from people who were speaking Spanish?
When I was growing up in Illinois, there was a section of the subdivision that I lived in. They were all Spanish. And then my parents lost their home, and I don't even know why. We moved into that neighborhood and we spoke English, and we didn't know any Spanish, but the family that was behind us, the mother was American, as the husband put it, and he was from Mexico. And so their kids are trying to teach us Spanish. I mean, it was a riot. We enjoyed it, but we couldn't say that in our house. My dad wouldn't let us. And now that I'm out and older, I always was attracted to people that spoke other languages because I always wanted to learn. Well, now I have a nephew who is 7 years old. He's fluent in English and Spanish. And he'll say, oh, no, Aunt Barb, this is how you, and he'll take your lips and try to help you. So I always felt bad for them, because they always seemed to me like, these are the neighbor boys, kind of like shrinking violets. If they were out in a large group of people that only spoke English, it was almost like they tried to stay invisible. And we would always try to bring them into our group, and they would not do that. Interestingly, the first week I was on Facebook, I get this friend request from Johnny Beasley, and I'm like, oh my God, it was Johnny Beasley, my neighbor back from behind me, and he's in Texas. And I'm like, I just left Texas. It was hilarious. But I mean, we went through all the neighborhood stuff. He said he's fluent in both, and he has stayed that way. So because his family is mixed now, and he actually said, we have some Italians in the family now. And I said, hey, I work for an Italian family. I learned to speak Italian. So,
Wow.
Remember, so it was really interesting, though.
I think from my perspective, because I lived half my youth in San Antonio and half my life in North Texas, and you saw in San Antonio, I didn't see as much of that pushback. I think because the LatinX community was so strong there that there was not like we were more of the northernmost city in Mexico rather than the southernmost city in Texas. And then when you move to like Dallas or Lubbock, or where you have a more dominant white culture, I know I especially saw it in Lubbock, Texas, and there was definitely a lot of, I call it shaming. I don't know how else to call it.
That's a good word for it.
That's a good word. Yes.
That it was like this forced cultural assimilation that I saw with my grandparents, because they came from Europe, they came from Germany in the 1920s, and they were told of stories, especially during World War II, because they came from Germany and Slavic countries that weren't real popular with them. And, so speaking German was strictly forbidden for my grandparents. They wouldn't do it. They didn't teach it to my dad's generation. And so I definitely don't speak German. I don't even understand any of it. And so I think that it's definitely a uniquely American thing, because if you live in Europe, almost all school systems in Europe teach 2 or more languages automatically from kindergarten on. Like, it's just normal. And here you speak American. You are an American. It's almost like a
English. Growing up, speak English all the time. Speak English.
Yeah. No, it's American. It's American. We're America, and it's just this white pride thing. I'm like,
Cyndi, you want to jump in?
I was just gonna say, I went to vacation to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, and I was because I thought, oh, I can't wait. They're gonna have probably a different language than us, and it's gonna be so interesting. But I was so amazed to find that all of them knew English, and we're like, what's going on? Why do I feel a little bit disappointed? And they're, well, the school system teaches them English. It's a mandatory. It's that they have to learn it, and I was just like, that's awesome. Of course, we got a lot of the Spanish language as well, but I was just so amazed by that. And I thought that's something we should do here. It should be, they teach, because I know a lot of people say Spanish is not the first language in Texas, but it really is, and I think that if they were to teach that, it would be so much easier for everybody.
I think school systems in the United States, whether it's Texas or wherever, they should teach 2 or 3 languages minimum, because we're in the globalism.
Such a diverse.
There should be at least 1 Asian language taught.
Absolutely.
Hard language.
We all know USA doesn't have a actual language.
Right.
So that's another thing that we are struggling through. And they should implement some of these extra programs or make it mandatory for kids to have the opportunity, like my kindergarten, to have the opportunity of learn a second or third language. They all been learning, they just been learning the Xbox and the Fortnite languages, as you can tell, but other languages, they don't.
Ruth, I think you hit the nail right on the head. And when we talk about North Carolina, the things we're talking about, other states have been through already. So this controversy about language, and one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this was because our Governor Cooper yesterday was talking about schools and reopening schools, and there was a person on his staff that came in front of the camera and started to speak Spanish to explain, for several reasons. First of all, because there's a very large percentage of school-age children that are Latinx, and many of those parents speak Spanish. So he's talking to the customers of the schools. And on social media, there were lots of people on there saying, why are you speaking Spanish? Speak English, the stuff that other states have gone through, but we're going through those things now. And they're being very short-sighted, because we are a global, if we want to be a global economic force in the Charlotte, North Carolina region, we've got to learn how to compete globally. And our biggest customer, we trade more to Latin America countries, Mexico specifically, than we do to Japan and to China here in North Carolina. And we can trade everything except citrus from North Carolina. And so that is one of the short-sightedness of people who are trying to stifle this. But Jenny, yesterday or last night in the production call, you were talking about some, I can't remember, it was something about North Carolina and how you feel like maybe this is just a generation away from not being an issue anymore.
I think so. I think there's 2 things in play. I think some of it is that the millennials and Generation Z have all come up learning English, because of the emphasis. But I also think that younger generations push back a lot. So I think our generation, especially Generation X, I think we were sandwiched in between the baby boomers and the millennials, and we got to this. We're just gonna assimilate. We're just gonna go along and get along. And so, I know that I never pursued my culture or my heritage and all. It wasn't even encouraged in my household.
Right.
When I had the opportunity to take German in school, I had a choice between German, French, or Spanish. And I took French. That's why I don't speak it, because I didn't live in an area that spoke French. But I think we all grew up in that same culture that said you assimilate. That's what it is to be American. It's a melting pot. You just melt into the culture. And English is the assumed language of commerce, which is not necessarily true anymore, because China has the largest population and is a global superpower economically. Why aren't we teaching Chinese too? Why are we teaching Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, and English? Because they're three very necessary languages. Mexico and
So Jenny, hey Jenny, you made me think of something really funny. When people are there aren't a lot of people, but when there are people who kind of make fun of people who don't speak English correctly, especially for Latinx and their English is broken. I don't know, anyone who's lived in North Carolina, especially kind of in our rural areas or the hill country area, we have white Americans, or what they would call Southern heritage Americans, who can't even speak good English. So it's like, if you want to talk about speaking English, get your English right first before you
We have
start.
some new teenagers that don't even pronounce the words right. They make their own words in their own community, and they expect us adults to understand their English.
Yeah.
Well, it's like from Idiocracy, it's a mix of hillbilly and inner city slang, and they grew up learning their English. These hillbillies learned it from MTV and reality TV, and so I see some of them post on Facebook, some of their social media friends, and their English is very tragic, and it's a dumpster fire, that's for sure. And so,
but what are we doing as a community to kind of change that? I mean, we understand Texas has its own. California, it's another state where, there's no distinguish and everybody speaks Spanish normally and there's no issue. Florida also, I've been there and I've seen how, you can be a white Anglo person and also speak Spanish, or, they get along real good. What are we doing here? North Carolina is growing, it's overpopulating with a lot of Hispanics. I'm not talking only Mexicans. I'm not talking about Salvadorian or Hondurans. We're talking about Central
America,
Colombian, Peru, Ecuador, other countries that also speak Spanish. And it's different, but it's Spanish as well. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna be doing to kind of get into that level? We have to make ourselves speak to the government and kind of request special programs, especially for our school kids, programs in the boards meetings. There's a lot going on and things that are, yes, we are welcoming America. Yes, we have that inclusion plan. We even hire an immigrant inclusion manager for the city. But what are we doing to broad and bring in that community and let our richness, our culture kind of spread out?
you have to make sure that you are properly represented. Jorge is a great example. When I met you and Jorge at Ed's meeting, I was hoping you guys were going to show up, and then he went off and did some of his things, and we stayed to get connected. But unless you're represented, especially now in this kind of time, it's going to get forgotten. And you guys just can't let them forget, because I've seen it happen too many times. This is a need, and then some other big crisis happens, and that gets pushed to the back burner, and which is what some of my family members think now is happening with Black Lives Matter. Oh, they're better now. It's over. They're going to get over it now, and I don't think that's going to happen, and I think that's why the violence is happening. But it's just too important now that, like you, Ruth, you stay on these committees and you speak up and you be Ruth and let him know how important this is, because to represent a totally white person that grew up in a lily white neighborhood, I don't know how to think like that, because I never experienced it. I'm more open to it now because of my mulatto niece and nephew and my Spanish speaking nephew. it doesn't bother me. I want to know what's going on with them and what's important to them because I can't think like that.
And you know what's the sad part of it is? Like this morning, I before y'all, I had another board meeting. I have my monthly board meeting with the medical field. And it's sad to hear our numbers where 3 out of 10 Latinos are testing positive with COVID. Yeah. A lot of them are refusing to get checked or get tested.
Why?
Some of them, language barrier. I've been dealing with a family in Concord in Cabarrus County. I don't even physically know them very well, but they contacted me. They didn't know where to go. There's no access for their language. And that's something that we have to work on. And I tell them, listen, put your headphones on, put some English music and go to sleep with it. You'll pick up some words. That's the way you can learn English. Put an effort. You don't have to spend money on learning English. You can still learn to be able to get take advantage of the resources.
Television.
And we can do great comments off the Facebook. Philip said it's up to the Latinx families to really teach us to be more evolved and be more open-minded and all that. Yes. Kind of the dovetail off Ruth's point. And then Tony Foreman commented about really the Afro-American and the Latino culture embracing each other more, because, there's a lot of power in both those communities here in Charlotte.
If we could just come together, do you know how much change could happen? I've always said that. If there's, for some reason, go ahead.
Do you think, and I'll ask this to Ruth and Cyndi, do you think that maybe the white culture tries to push y'all apart? Do you think there is a intentionality to keep y'all divided? Divide and conquer.
I do believe that, because I believe
I would say 50%. I would say 50% because, sometimes a lot of Latinos that I know prefer to hang out with white Americans than their own culture people.
Yeah.
So sometimes the ones that really, really, to be honest, divide us, it's our own community.
Agree.
You're right. I agree. And if you have someone who has gotten a better position at work or making more money, it's a lot of jealousy, a lot of trying to pull them back or hold them back. And that's terrible. But I do feel the people that here in Texas, I feel that trying to bring the Hispanic together with the Black people, I think that it's working, but I also feel like those that are not people of color do feel a threat to have us to be unified and trying to start a movement or to make changes. And I think that's not good, because then you start, like you say, it tears us apart when people start putting things, well, this Black person beat up this Hispanic, or this Hispanic beat up this Black person. It's not about that. It's about the act. It's not who did it. Why do you keep doing that and pushing that in our face and trying to make it seem Black lives don't matter, Hispanic lives matter, brown lives matter, I just think that we could move so many mountains if we just came together.
I think at the end of the road, at the bottom point is that we as human beings challenge ourselves every single day, because we have to kind of learn how to fit in a world that it's kind of trapping us down, and we have not learned how to identify real human love, not by color, not by how you look, and not what positions you have, but who you really are and what that person sends. It's sad to have families that are tearing apart, even in their own family, because they have different, I guess, friendships. Some of them are in a higher level class than others, so they don't even get along themselves. I agree. I have to love everyone. I might not agree with everyone's point, but I have to learn how to respect, because I want that same respect for me.
Absolutely.
That's how we're talking about respect. Please respect my Goya seasoning in my kitchen. Don't hate me for that.
I was going to ask that question. it imposed this as one of the white people on this. So what do y'all think of this Goya controversy where he basically just said Trump is great? And how do y'all feel about that? Do you feel like he sold
No,
your
I didn't
community
pay no
out?
attention to what he said. All it mattered to me was that Goya donated a couple of £1,000 of different foods for needy families. And it made sense. He said, well, this nation is blessed because this man, you know, he mentioned his name for this project that he's doing. I don't give a crap what he's doing. All I care is that he's doing it for the country. And that's his job.
So let me make sure we understand this. So what Jenny was talking about, I think what we're going to be talking about now is the Goya boycott. But before we switch to that in 30 seconds, I agree with what everyone has said. And I can tell you in Charlotte, North Carolina, the biggest fear that the majority has here is Black and brown voters getting together.
Yes.
And they use every tactic to keep us apart, from the Spanish thing to they're taking our jobs to all this kind of stuff. And their biggest fear is Black and brown voters getting together because their days are pretty much over. So there is a lot of power moving forward. But talking about Goya, I have my very last bottle of Goya base.
Do you only use the red one? Because I use both, green and red.
I just use this one. So what I hear from Mama Ruth is not going to be boycotting Goya.
Heck no. I ain't starving for no president thing.
Okay, so that's interesting. So your point of view is you're not going to boycott him because you, you explain it. The reason you're not boycotting him is because.
Listen, let's be smart enough, okay? Boycotting, I understand, is putting pressure and stuff. Goya is still all around the world, first of all. I grew up in Texas, and if you grew up in Texas, you should know Goya because they have, you know, distributions down there and stuff, Puerto Ricans and stuff. Now, we have mentioned before, if you apply for a job, you have to do what it said, the description of the job.
Okay.
Thanks goodness that Mr. 45 is finally kind of snapping on doing what real job of a president should be doing. Okay? And some of that point, don't take me wrong. I'm not applauding him at all.
No, I know. I'm just curious. Yeah.
By him trying to kind of smooth out that he has not been paying enough attention to the things that are going on with COVID, and for him to come up, whoever advised them, to sign up an executive order to provide harvest, harvest, whatever, to provide food to all these needy families that are struggling through COVID. That's something that, you know, that's good. In his bad leadership, I think it's good because a lot of families that I know being benefiting from that.
Okay, Ruth.
That's an interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
That wasn't Trump's idea. That's
what I said. Whoever influenced it.
A liaison to help the farmers so they weren't plowing all the crops underground and starting all over again. It was a way to help the farmers, and he needs the farmers to vote for him.
But at the end,
you're right.
He's trying to make it seem like he's under the leadership, so it's him. However, we should all, as a nation, come together and look at it how it benefits our country, not what he's saying. To me, it didn't hurt me when he said all Mexicans are rapists. I'm gonna prove him that I'm a successful woman in this country with my family, and I'm gonna prove him wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, we can't allow for him to be bombarding our minds and our feelings and get to their level as well. Because what we're doing, and I've seen a lot of people are doing this, we're doing the same thing he is. We're trying to show him hate because that's what he's showing. And we shouldn't get to that level.
So what I'm hearing is that you're not going to allow Trump to bring you down. As a result of that, you're not going to boycott Goya for what he has said. That's what I'm hearing from you. Okay, well that's a perspective, and there are people that are probably following that. I can tell you my perspective, but Cyndi, do you have a perspective?
Back in the years, many years back, Okay,
Yeah.
as y'all know, I'm a Christian 100%.
Yeah.
My church, some of my people from my religion try to cut me back or try to get me to cut back on Procter and Gamble because they were financing devil worshippers and gambling, whatever. Believe me, I didn't stop buying Dawn, Palmolive, Tide, nothing. I'm not gonna move by that. I'm gonna move by what I think is right and just for me.
Sure. Okay, I understand that. Cyndi, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I think that no, I think that when he was speaking about the president, I believe that he did it out of respect for him. I don't. I just think that that's just our culture. You know, you're not going to say anything bad. You're going to be respectful. But as far as the boycott, I don't use their product anyway because I had to watch my take care of my health a little bit. So I kind of pushed all that stuff out. I boycotted a long time ago when they said I was sick, but so I'm not really.
And you didn't boycott it, you just reject the seasoning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can't use it due to health issues, but I think that I understand the boycott. I feel like the Latino community feels like they have been handed, you know, a pretty hard blow by someone, but I also know that this company has done so much, and you know, boycotting is like she said, it puts pressure on them, but at the same time, we have a lot of our own people that work for that company and a lot of Latinos that work for them and feed their families off of this. So that's kind of hard because you're kind of messing that up a little bit. And I don't know. I'm just kind of still at a neutral position about it. I see why, and then again, I see why they should and why they shouldn't. But I'm just kind of sitting here watching for it. And like, you know, like Ruth said, Mama Ruth said, I don't take what he said personally, because everybody has their own opinion on the president, and I'm not going to sit there and argue with people about that or make a big deal out of it because it's your opinion. You know, we've also had a lot of Hispanic leaders come out and say, or owners of businesses say bad, you know, about him, or the truth, speaking the truth, I should say. But I mean, I'm just going to kind of sit back and watch this one.
The only thing is that we have a lot of our community that is very confused. A lot of our community think, and this is what I've been getting, I can show y'all. I've been getting inboxes saying, well, they should be sending, they should be getting the $1,200 back because I don't want it because if Goya, and I'm like, this is a big confusion. Y'all got to educate yourself. The CEO from Goya did not give any funds out. All they donated pounds of products and they applaud the executive order. However, Goya been supporting since back other presidents like Obama. They've been doing scholarships and they do a lot more. I don't say they do, they give back because they take a lot of advantage as well as for us.
So because we're going to let the two white ladies on the panel, so-called white ladies on the panel, kind of give us their perspective. I agree with both of y'all in certain ways. What I disagree with is I just don't believe in giving someone credit for just being a decent human being. So I don't believe I don't believe President Trump should ever get credit for just being a decent human being and just doing his job. So I don't think we should say, oh, thank you, President Trump, or thank you. That's your job. Just be a decent human being. And I think the bar is so low that when he does something semi-decent, we're like, oh, that's wonderful. That shows you how terrible of a situation we're in.
But I also agree with Cyndi. As Latinos, when we are very respectful in the Spanish way.
No, I agree. And this is why I'm going to be boycotting Goya for several reasons. It's not hard for me to boycott Goya because I only buy this once a month. If you see this, this goes in every single thing I make. This base goes in it. But I'm going to be calling on you, Mama Ruths and Mama Cyndi's and everybody.
Do it. I'll send you the recipe how you do that.
That's what I'm saying. I can make my own.
We have a lot of Puerto Rican people that sells that, the recadito it's called.
And so I'm going to be boycotting them because the CEO the Latinx or the Latino market is a huge market, and he didn't acknowledge the pain that it caused some people. All he had to say as a CEO was, I'm sorry if my words hurt some people, but this is the reason I said it. He didn't say that. He came out and doubled down on it and almost did like a Trump. I don't really care what you think. That's what I said. You can do that as an individual, but you can't do that when you do that as a CEO, just like the Chick-fil-A person has done. We have every right to say, that's fine, we will go to another product. If you're gonna be like that, that's our dollars count. Now, me not buying one of these once a month is not gonna break Goya, but me telling people you can buy other products, and that will hopefully put pressure on the leadership of Goya to backtrack and say, we're sorry for what we've done.
The CEO is the owner?
Yes, well, it doesn't mean that it doesn't, and that's what makes it more important. What makes it more important is
he can't lose his spot.
But he can lose money.
I can tell you, everyone backtracks when they lose money. So Jenny, you want to jump in, and then Barbara?
Yeah.
Real quick, we had Betty Alvarado that said that she wouldn't stop using the Goya because of the CEO's point of view, but she said she find it funny that President Trump's daughter was holding up a bottle of Goya's frijoles. So she just found that humorous. But I think people should vote with their dollars if they're moved to boycott Goya for whatever reason, maybe because the way he has mischaracterized the Latinx and Hispanic community, the way he referred to that judge in the Trump University scam case as that Mexican judge, exactly. as he referred to undocumented new arrivals as murderers and rapists and stuff like that. When you put violent words out there, it creates violent atmosphere. And this is why I rail against people posting against the LGBT community. And it causes a ripple effect in my community when somebody posts an anti-LGBT post. It makes my life more dangerous. It makes it okay for me to be less than human. Yeah. And so especially the white community, we don't need a president disparaging the entire community, because now we've got 11 million of them being shoved into cages. And so if we look at them as less than human, then we go, well, they deserve it. They're undocumented and they're less than human. They're all murderers and rapists. Mm-hmm. And so we don't see that we have humans in friggin' cages with no blankets, no treatment for COVID, and they're literally dying laying on a concrete floor. We can't forget that. We cannot just look the other way like it happened in Nazi Germany.
You know who's furnishing that? You know who's funding that?
That's the banks.
The banks. Wells Fargo is the biggest fund.
Well, yeah, they finance the private prisons.
And we have not done much about boycotting Wells Fargo. Why?
We
haven't not done much. I mean, we've done a couple of protests for Wells Fargo, yes, but we have not done more to make sure that our kids down there, the borders, the ones that are separated and they don't even know where their parents are at or their family members, we are still using banks, giving them our money to furnish that. Then a piece of plate.
Barbara, you want to add anything for 30 seconds? Then we got to start. We started a little late, but are you going to boycott Goya?
I only have 2 cans of beans that I buy, and I can buy other beans, and I will support it. But I do understand Ruth's point, and Cyndi, that having worked for an Italian company, there would be times when the Americans against the Italians sitting in a business meeting, you could see them struggling to be polite, and so I understand that facet of it, but he missed the point of how we take what he said. And I mean, me as collateral, as everybody that's in the United States. He missed it. So his messaging people, and maybe he's like Trump, maybe he doesn't have any either because he's the owner, CEO. But he missed it. And unless he gets it slapped in his face somehow, he isn't going to come back with another explanation like the CPI CEO did. Oh, exactly. Not putting me in the pocketbook. Maybe I should rethink this. And that's the only way they learn.
And you know what? I'm not Mexican 100%. You know, my heart belongs to my Mexican heart, but that's it. But that's how I felt with a president of Mexico last week also, when he was asked, how do you feel about all these things that he had said in the past and stuff? And he said, oh, let's turn the page around. I was like, that's slapping your own people. You don't come and kiss butt, no one. You have to kind of present your role. And I do agree. Like I said, that doesn't mean, I've never said I'm supporting Goya. I said I will not stop buying some of the stuff that I use for my household, which every 3 months, it could be every 6 months.
Hey, Mama Ruth, don't you think? Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
However, you know, we have to kind of be conscious of who we're cutting, because I mean, at least we know about Goya publicly. There's a lot of other companies that are behind the scene that we don't know, and we're still helping them.
Do we know, has anybody looked up to see, I mean, I know it's kind of soon, but if there's been any change or drop in the amount of money they're bringing in now?
It went up.
It went up? Okay.
It went up.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I can tell you that I think what we really have to focus on, and I think Jenny will agree because she is my kind of my vegan advisor type of person.
Your satellite antenna.
I think what we really should be concerned about is not really boycotting Goya, but how much sodium is in their can of beans.
You know, it's not what I'm talking about. No, because they started doing the fit line as well. You know who we have to force to cut them?
Who?
The businesses. Walmart sells Goya.
Yes.
A lot of the grocery stores, a lot of distributors, they're the ones that should be cutting for us, the Latinos, their businesses.
That's what I was going to tell you.
Because they're investing, and if we don't buy, not only Goya's going to lose, the business owners are going to lose money.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is the next step? The only way this is really going to impact Goya is Harris Teeter, Walmart, Kroger, those name brand, those big boxes. They're going to have to stop carrying their products, and that's not at all impossible to do.
Well, you know, Publix doesn't carry it, I think.
Yeah, and so I mean, I agree with you. I think when that happens, I think you will finally see the CEO saying, "What had happened was I didn't really mean. I was trying to be nice, and what happened was I was
trying to be respectful."
No, it doesn't make any sense for us, the people, to boycott Goya when the distributors, you know, if I'm a business owner, like let's say Manolo, if he will order Goya products for his place and people don't come and buy it, he already made the investment. So if people don't come, Goya ain't losing. The ones that are losing are the business owners. So the ones that we have to push for them to boycott are the businesses, not the distribution, not Goya itself.
Well, here's some good news. My understanding is Manolo.
He did.
I think he's
put a big old sign.
I think he's going to start to be using other products, and as a result, so I'm going to follow his lead, and I'm going to start
by using other products. How do we know those other products are not also in the same chain of supporting our president?
We need to do our research. We need to do our research.
Yeah, research. And also, by the way, just to let you know, because Mama Ruth is Jeff Scott's intern, there was really no devil thing in the Procter & Gamble things. That was a conspiracy theory.
No, I understand, but see, my point is that I want you to understand, to know who Mama Ruth is. Yeah. Mama Ruth doesn't let herself just go and get, blind and say, I'm listening to this and this, I'm not doing this. Heck no, I'm gonna do I'm a rebel Christian, just like you're a rebel Democrat.
Democratic libertarian.
I gotta point out one thing. Jenny. I think it's fabulous that Mama Ruth actually referred to herself as Mama Ruth in the third person. That was a gangster move. I love it. That was so OG right there.
And who's the third person? Who's the third person? Jeff?
You were referring to you. No, you were talking about
Mama Ruth. Big Mama Ruth, OG gangster rapper. There we go. I claimed that name first. So if you get famous, I'm your agent. Just
All right. Well, listen, we have gone over just a little bit. We need to wind down because we value everyone's time. Once again, this was a great conversation. It's always wonderful to have everyone on here. I'm trying to imitate. If y'all watched last week's show, we had a gentleman from
Jenny, read what Phillips just said.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Jenny.
he did. Philip Cano pointed out the pressure on Papa John's
Yeah.
CEO that the board directors actually fired him, and if Goya is a publicly traded company, they're going to have a board that the CEO still has to answer to. So
y'all gotta remember, after what happened with Goya, you're right. There should be, even though he's the owner, there's a board that actually can fire him.
Yep.
Yes.
However, there was a statement from Goya, and they made it clear they're the ones, that was a personal speech of the CEO. Right. They don't contribute to that.
Okay. Well,
and truthfully, he didn't say anything. And I'm going to say this, from a white perspective, because, I don't want to be misinterpreted. I'm speaking for another community.
Yeah.
I do believe, I read the quote, and as cringy as it is for any positive stuff for 45, I don't even want to say his name. I do believe that everybody should be able to say something positive. And I do believe that the president of Goya, he did say something that was positive. Yeah. Now, do we despise 45? Absolutely, and it's hard to hear praise on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we also have to remember that we have to share space with him at least through next January. November. So exactly. if we fire him in November, like we should do, he's still the president until January, 20th or 21st, whenever the new president is sworn in. So that is a reality. He is. This is going to be hard to say. He is our current president, and it was Goya's right, the Goya president's right to have free speech. And I think one important point is that if we're gonna claim free speech by criticizing Trump, we need to allow some grace for some people to be able to praise him. Maybe because it's a business move. It got his name in the business, and he did sell more products out of it. It wasn't a bad PR move. I don't think it was the stupidest thing in the world for him to do, honestly. And I don't think the boycott's going to get traction. I think we have bigger fish to fry.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, AOC, the Castro brothers, all of the influencers in the current Latinx community are going. A lot of the Latinx chefs are a lot of Latinx restaurants in California. Well, hopefully they make their own stuff anyway. But I will say that we all have to say something positive about someone. And one of the things that I will say about President Cheeto is he is the best liar I have ever seen on television or anywhere. I have never seen a better liar.
Liar cheater.
I wanna buy that book. I wanna buy the book of his niece.
Me too.
Well,
the first one out there.
I'm on Backhoe. I'm on Hub. There's a waiting list.
The Washington Post has been keeping track of false statements and lies that he has made since he took office, and he has broken his own record. I think it's like 10 a day. So think about that. I don't know how many thousands of lies that is. And he lies so much that we all just know he's lying, and it's just bizarre. So I will say, if you're going to be good at something, be good at something. And he is a really, really good liar. So we're ending the show. We're going to go around and tell us where you're going to be. Next week, we are talking about schools. Are they safe to open? And so that's going to be a really exciting show. The show after that, in case you're curious, is...
North Carolina doesn't require for my grandson to go and attend kindergarten. He can be 7 years old to start first grade.
Oh,
however, we'll be talking about that next week.
Yes, and then the show after that on the 29th is right up Tony Foreman's avenue. It's called Latinx. Yes, Latinx versus Black Charlotte. Are we allies or adversaries? So that's going to be a very interesting. We're going to talk about.
That's going to be very interesting, because if we are walking on the street and we see Tony Foreman on the street, he looks all black. And if nobody knows he speaks Spanish, how do we react? How do we act, or how do we treat him? That's going to be a good one, guys.
Well, maybe we'll have him on, and he was one of our original
Well,
persons on the show. Go ahead.
He's made several comments, and one of his latest ones is that when he runs in 2022, that one of his big plans is to unite the Black and Brown communities.
Yes.
tell him not to wait on 2022. He should have started 3 years ago.
Oh, he has.
Right.
Well, you know, he ran this year.
He knows
okay.
we love him.
So let's go around, tell us where you're going to be, and I hope all of you ladies have a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful day in the heat wherever you are. I'm here with the iguanas in an undisclosed location. I'm practicing incredibly safe, as safe as I can be, and we'll see. Anyway, go around. If you're looking at the Brady Bunch screen, it is Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, Barbara, Cyndi, and Mama Ruth. So, Jenny, you start.
Okay, I'm going to be watching virtually Charlotte Black Pride. It is Charlotte Black Pride week all this week through the weekend. So they have a ton of wonderful events. You can go onto their Facebook page and see how they celebrate Pride. And that's primarily what I'll be doing, plus my Friday night dance party. So, Barbara?
I will be working with, as a volunteer for another company, trying to help them hopefully get back up and running and staying in business right here in Charlotte from my house.
Cyndi?
Andy.
Oh, sorry. So I'm gonna be here baking some sweet bun cakes, and I'm donating some to a little community board that I'm associated with, and also I enjoyed the show. Thank you for having me. Que tengan un buen día todos.
Awesome. I need one of those masks, Mr. Cano. Medicare for all. This is where I'll be tonight, guys. Please join me.
Yes.
I will be
awesome.
at Vanessa Guillen's vigil night. Tonight, we have a couple of speakers. I, your servant, will be speaking as well as a mother,
Awesome.
daughter, granddaughter,
Yeah,
grandmother,
beautiful.
as a female, the only female between 7 brothers, how to survive my army.
You're tough. I know you're tough.
Yeah, we'll be there from 6:30 to 8:30 at Roden Park. Please come and show support. We definitely need to show that we Latinos here in Charlotte care for what happens all around our nation, especially for our women. If we stand for them, will make us better, because we'll be showing our future girls that we are tied together. That's what I'll be doing. Jenny, I wish you all the best luck for this week's events. You, Mr. Cano, please take care of yourself, okay? And Cyndi, it's a pleasure to always have you here. You're always welcome. We enjoy it. It's like our stress relief for us. And Barbara,
yes,
I hope you don't have no more events going on, because we miss you, girl.
Until
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, real quick, before we sign off, Walmart just announced in the Wall Street Journal that they're going to require all shoppers to wear masks.
Yes.
And the second thing is, it is Charlotte Black Pride Week for the LGBT community. I want to say all Black Lives Matter.
Awesome.
Awesome. All Black Lives Matter.
Yes. BLMA.
Well, listen, thank you so much. I will be getting ready for the next show at an undisclosed location on vacation with my family. If you know what this sign is, then you know where I'm at. Don't tell anybody. So just kind of let you know where I'm at. And of course, I'll be wearing face coverings. I'll be staying far away from people, all that kind of wonderful stuff. Listen, last time in the production meeting, we talked about the generations and the Gen Xers and the Zoomers and Generation Xers and Boomers. And listening to you ladies who are Gen Xers and above, I believe, I see where our Zoomers and our millennials and our Gen Zers, or whatever they're called, I see where they get their passion and their activism. The women of the Gen Xers and the Boomers are really why we progressed.
Yeah.
I know in my family, the Latino women are the powerful women, and they don't get enough credit for. And so I want to thank y'all for your passion and what you've taught us.
This was my credit. This was
Chancla.
cool. This is the best
The
diploma.
Fear the chocolate.
This is the best diploma. This is the best education. The best,
Listen,
best.
we have a chocolate episode that we did, and we'll have to do another one, but obviously this episode is going to have to be virtual. And it's been over a year since we did our last chocolate episode, but we will do another chocolate episode. I don't know if it'll have the same effect virtually, but those chocolates were boomerangs. Woo, woo,
They
woo,
really
woo, woo,
work
woo.
for women that you know, for young ladies, especially if you didn't know how to sit, you would just feel the flying chancla on your seat right next to you.
All the way to the back. All the way to the back of that station wagon. Man, that thing was fly.
So y'all, you have to Google chancla, and there's these funny videos for these people have done videos of their parents chocolating where they're like trying to sneak out and the mom goes like this and everyone stops.
You know, now
really,
millennials are making fun of them and all these new generations.
Yeah.
But believe me, if they would start practicing that, their future will be way better.
Well, listen, I don't want everyone to think that we all got beaten when we were younger. You know, it's just it's like the fear of the belt, not having to use it. Not having to use it was the discipline. So not having to use that.
It's like the white Latino. It's like the white Latino American people without, you know, disrespecting my audience. It's like when they would put you on timeout on a little corner.
Exactly.
Oh, we called it a switch back in my day.
Or the switch.
Yeah, we called it a belt in my day.
My neighbors would go for the switch from the tree. But you know, Christian, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
I do, based on what you just talked about, I do want to say that today I see that we are embracing our culture in a much broader range. We're prouder. It's like we're standing up for ourselves finally. We see a lot of the younger generation standing up and speaking the Spanish more fluently in public and being able to talk about their culture. I mean, it's just being embraced more by the younger generation. And I really do love that.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, listen, those Jenny and Mama Ruth know at our production meeting the angle I wanted to take this about Spanish and English, and I've changed my mind. I do think that is a value-added asset for our community to continue to embrace our culture, to speak whatever language we are comfortable with.
And learn how to nod the head.
Yeah, learn how to nod the head, that's right. So if you're on Zoom, stay on. We're gonna stop Facebook
You need
Live.
to go and learn Spanish more.
I know, it's hard. You know,
Yeah, get my nephew to call you.
But we do need to sign off.
Okay.
Yes, okay, we're gonna stop on Zoom. Stop on